How's it going, guys? It's Cole with See-Through Panel showing off Batman Reptilian, published by DC Black Label, retailing for $25 US for the hardcover. Nice dust jacket on the outside, but I am not very much a fan of dust jackets, so I'll be taking that off for this review. Pretty much only leave them on to show off at the beginning of the reviews. It's got nice art on it, so at least there's that, but never been really one to understand the function of the dust jacket. Here's the actual art on board of the book. Symmetrical creature design. There's the spine, and like all the DC hardcovers, nothing too crazy. It's just perfect bound, and that's about it. That's all it's got going for it. But just a very simple design, as all of their hardcovers are. So, Batman Reptilian, written by Garth Ennis. Art entirely by Liam Sharp, no inker, no colorist. Letters by Rob Steen. And this was a book that a lot of people were really hyped up about because Garth Ennis, I don't think, has ever written Batman before, and coming from the art of Liam Sharp that we had all just seen on the Green Lantern with Grant Morrison, we were all very excited to see where Sharp would go stylistically, because he had a huge style change on the book on the Green Lantern, but he it was very divisive, I'll say. And before I get too ahead of myself, I may spoil some things with the pages I'm showing off here, but I will not be spoiling the story with my words or with my voice. I'm just going to be flipping through the book idly, so if you want to avoid visual spoilers, just read it and then come back. But yeah, as I was saying, Sharp changed a hell of a lot during the Green Lantern and went from a very I won't even say typical comic book style, but it was a lot more what you'd expect from an American comic than this is. This is much more painterly, much more realistic, and he kind of had that style change right in the middle of a series. And so after that, with a new writer and a script that was originally meant for Steve Dillon, everyone kind of was wondering how he would approach this, if he would take a Dillon type style, or if he'd go with his original very liney, very kind of standard American style, or if it go for this, which is more of a 2000 AD type approach. And I'm pretty happy that he chose this because I really enjoyed looking at it. Whether or not I love the art itself, I think it's interesting, and that's, I think, important. So the art, I really have so many artists that pop into my head when I look at this kind of art. But as soon as I flip a couple more pages, you'll see a good example of Dave McKean, I think, is a big influence here. And, I mean, obviously Sienkiewicz as well. I think it reminds me of Dave McKean in a lot of these panels, especially with his Joker and with his faces from the face I just showed you earlier. I think he's a bit Corbin-like as well. And his creature design, I'm going to flip pretty far into the book here, so don't, if you don't want to get spoiled that far, but I think with the texture of his work and the kind of the way the paint sits, even if it's not really paint, I don't know, but it reminds me of H.R. Giger a little bit, just in the way he draws creatures and kind of like alien architecture that is shown off a little bit in this book. If I could maybe find this page here. Very dark. The lighting is not doing it justice at all. For most of this book is quite dark. But yeah, McKean, a little bit of Corbin, and I think more than Corbin, Simon Bisley, because this just reminds me of Bisley. I'm not sure if I'm just remembering wrong, but one of my favorite 2000 AD artists, and I see a lot of him. I think him and McKean are definitely the biggest influences here. I don't actually know any of that for certain. It's just what I pick up on when I read it. But without babbling about the art too much, the story here is there is someone going through Gotham, killing all of the villains, and Batman is trying to understand what it is, how to stop it. The majority of the story is the trying to understand it and trying to catch it, and then I think the last 2 issues out of the 6 issues Is Riccardo Federici's wonderful variant. The last two issues are kind of like just a big long fight and him kind of working out how to deal with this creature. Ennis brings his typical grimdark, very witty, very funny, but in a very dark way approach here. But I don't know that it works for Batman. I really don't. I'm not a diehard Batman fan. I really don't care too much about the character, but he's such a talkative, cynical, just really sarcastic too. Very Punisher-like, but even a step further than that. Just really enjoying scaring people and hurting them, really. And although I thought it was very funny, and I think he was laughing the whole time he was writing the script, I do think it was very funny, but I don't actually think it works for Batman himself, which is good that this is a Black Label book and it's not in canon. Everyone would freak out if it was, but it was a little strange, I thought. Although very funny, and it ended up working for me, but I just thought the whole time that people that actually care about Batman must have hated this. Although they must have liked the art, I would imagine. Art gets very different. Art changes styles a lot. Like, this is much looser than any page we've seen before. And there's a page towards the end, I'm going to skip ahead here, that is extremely, extremely loose. I was just blown away by it. Oh wow, but even before that, more McKean. That is just such a McKean Joker tactic he pulls with the light on the eye. In these red panels here, it gets a lot different. The style gets very, with the coloring, changes very, very drastically. And then we're right back to our typical style for the book. Very messy coloring here. He does that for a lot of the book. Very textured though. Really nice looking, I thought. Sharp is an artist I can always appreciate, even if I'm not always in love with what he's putting on the page. I can definitely appreciate how he's an artist that is evolving on the page all the time. This is a very strange style I've seen him do in a couple of the books. Very thick outlines, perspective straight down. This character is flying up into the air, but even then, the perspective is so interesting. The head is gigantic, and the body almost two-dimensional underneath it. It's something. It's always something to look at, which is at least fun, regardless of if you miss his old style or if you like this one better. And for a Batman story, it's very interesting. It's just basically a monster movie with a character who's kind of abrasive. That's almost painterly. At the top there, like a dragon almost in that pic. A little bit of inconsistency with the way the monster looks. Like here, Batman's jumping into its mouth, and it looks, I mean, absolutely huge, as you can tell. And then if we go back a little bit, I don't think he looks that big. Well, there maybe he is, and it's just a perspective thing. But regardless, the character design, or the creature design, is excellent. See if I can find... This one is just staggering, I thought. Very creepy, very Giger, very, like, horror movie, monster of the week, but to the next level where it's actually a bit scary, intimidating as hell. Really cool layouts here with the text messaging, kind of. I'm not a huge fan of this always appearing in art now, but this is a cool way to do it. It looks three-dimensional. It's actually taken out of this typical screen format and just put onto the page. I enjoyed this. I think I'm enjoying it now more than I did when I was reading it, just talking about it, because it's very interesting and it feels very experimental, but it's from two creators that are very, very experienced and know what they're doing, and this isn't necessarily a departure. Here we go. It's not necessarily a departure for either of them, but it feels like something unique and new, which I really like. Because, I mean, this is standard Ennis, and this is what Liam Sharp looked like at the end of the Green Lantern a year or two ago. And so neither of these things are new, but when they put them together, it feels very new. Ennis has never written Batman. I've never seen a Batman comic that looks like this. It's very interesting. I would recommend it if you can get the book probably half off in multiple places. I can't imagine it's too expensive. But I'll flip through the back variant covers here too, because there was a lot of excellent variant covers. Here's the creature design, though. The first one I already showed off is my favorite, is the Sienkiewicz. The Sienkiewicz variant is amazing. This makes me want to read some comics drawn by Sienkiewicz now. But yeah, I really, really appreciated this book for what it was. I thought maybe could have been handled a little better. It was a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but it was very enjoyable nonetheless. If you're in it more for the art of it and the kind of the humorous writing and less for a Batman story, I think you're going to enjoy this. But if you're here as a diehard Batman fan, I think you're not going to enjoy this twist on the character. But perhaps you will. You guys want to let me know. I'm really curious, because this is one of the more... this is one of the books I'm very split on lately. Usually I tend to enjoy a lot of the stuff. I usually only buy stuff I know I'm going to enjoy, but this I really thought I was going to love, and when I finished it, I couldn't decide how I felt about it. The original pitch is here by Ennis, which is very illuminating after you've read it. Some concept work from Liam Sharp, which is similar to his style before he went all 2000 AD painterly. You can tell it's a lot more just like pencil and ink drawn looking. But of course his style was adapted very quickly. Almost a middle ground here. Halfway between the two styles. This is I actually didn't notice this back page when I finished reading the book. Really cool. Almost Alex Ross style lighting on that. But I don't want to go too long with this. So I thought it was really fun. Definitely a spectacle and worth it in terms of the art. In terms of a Batman story, if you're just reading it to read another Batman story, probably skip it. It's not really great for that, I don't think. But as a monster movie type deal, or as a art appreciation book, I think it's definitely worth it. Let me know what you guys thought if you read this. There's not a lot of talk after. There's talk when it was coming out, but then by the time the 6th issue came out, the talk had basically died down. So, curious what people thought about it. Appreciate you guys watching. Thanks. Peace.